in still another tragic twist. 7.5 months after Kim's death, referee Richard Green was found dead at his North Las Vegas home with what was ruled a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
I knew Richard Green, and I know people who knew Richard Green, and I couldn't say with accuracy that he committed suicide because of the Deuk Koo Kim tragedy.
He really felt bad. He always expressed to me that he just wished he had some kind of sign to tell him, hey, the kid had enough. He would say that when he thought about stepping in, that's when the kid would come back with another punch.
One can see, of course, a chain of events triggered by Kim's death. At the end of a Shakespearean tragedy, the stage is littered with bodies. You had that here.
Mancini was a tremendously popular fighter, and so you had a tremendous television audience watching this on a Saturday afternoon at home. And in effect, you had millions of people who were witness to a man dying as a result of being hit by another person. Now, that's very traumatic for anyone.
I think that boxing never overcame the negativity of that death.
Right against the rope.
As was the case in 1962, when Benny Kid Paret died at the hands of Emil Griffith, the networks would turn their backs on what was once a ratings winner. In the wake of Deuk Koo Kim's death, boxing commissions and regulators dictated medical reforms that included more extensive physicals and shortening championship fights from 15 rounds to 12.
That turned out to be a wise move. I think a lot of the serious damage occurs when a fighter is dehydrated, when he's tired, when he's gone through a whole fight.
We went to 12 rounds because the last 3 rounds, what they call the championship rounds, more people had gotten hurt in those last 3 rounds than in the previous 12.
There's no medical proof to substantiate that more accidents and fatalities happen in the last 3 rounds as opposed to the first 12. None. It's absolute nonsense.
After Kim's death, Ray Mancini's appeal to Madison Avenue disintegrated.
Death is hard to sell. Having been in advertising, I know that you're looking for upbeat, happy thoughts. And Ray Mancini, having, in the vernacular, not my words, the people viewing him as having killed a man, all of a sudden, he was radioactive. The advertisers just went away.
There was a cereal deal. There was a soft drink deal. There was an apparel deal. All of those disappeared. Ray had become a pariah.
In the ring, however, Mancini continued to dominate, winning the next 4 fights, 3 by knockout. Then in June of 1984, he met the WBA's #1 contender, Livingstone Bramble, whose pre-fight strategy was to recall one of Mancini's darkest memories.
The lead-up to the fight was very ugly because Bramble called Ray a murderer.
I want him to be mad. I made him mad. I said stuff that would piss him off. I aggravated him. I did everything to piss this man off. So if he had any doubts about the Deuk Koo Kim fight or even thinking about it, those anger would overcome that. And I think it did.
2 days before, Ray didn't feel well. He was running a fever. And I told him, let's call off the fight. He said, no way, I'm going through with this. I'm not going to let Bramble say that I ran away from him.
There was a moment in this fight that changed Ray Mancini's career completely. He had always had trouble with left-handers. Livingstone Bramble switched to the left-handed stance about 4 rounds into this fight, and it completely altered the entire fight.
If it's 12 rounds, I win the title. I hold on to my title. I'm going to hit on all 3 cards because I'm slapping him to death. But I just couldn't move. My legs were dead. And finally, in that 14th round, I had nothing to keep him off me with, and he came on and caught me. That's one of the biggest disappointments of my life, is when I lost him in Buffalo.
8 months later, Mancini lost again to Bramble. Over the next 7 years, he came out of retirement twice, dropping both bouts. In 1992, he quit for good with a 29-5 record. Living in Los Angeles, Boom Boom had already started a second career. After trying his hand at acting, Mancini has moved behind the camera and in 2007 formed 2 production companies.
I'm producing films. I've acted in 18 films. I've done off-Broadway stage. I've done TV. I enjoy it.
I just made a movie with Ray, and I loved working with him. He's a terrific actor because he's got the best things that an actor can be. You know, he's honest, and he's sad. You know, all fighters are sad.
Ray is moving into the producing end of things, and some of the qualities that I think you need to be good, he's got. Tenaciousness, concentration. He never backs up. You know, just like in his fighting style, he's like a pit bull.
20 years after the fight in Las Vegas, Kim's image was brought back to life on the big screens of South Korea in a film called Champion. Invited to Seoul by the producers, Mancini was warmly received at the premiere. For Kim, his death made him a legend.
I've managed a private house, providing bed and meals for travelers. They always ask me to see his grave. The place has not been kept well for a long time. As a village leader, I would take care of Kim's grave from now on as a place to cherish the memory of Deuk Koo Kim.
But for Mancini, the tragedy not only remains a vivid memory a quarter of a century later, it also has touched his 3 children, especially his oldest.
My daughter was in grade school, and the kids were taunting her. Your father's a murderer, your father's a murderer, he killed somebody, right?
I cried, and I mentioned it to my dad because I didn't know about any of it. And then he kind of like sat and told me the story.
And Ray makes a decision to show her a tape of the fight and let his daughter judge for herself. And at the end of the viewing, she turns to her father and she says, "Daddy, you didn't kill anybody. It was something that happened in boxing."
No child should be responsible for sins of the father. That's what bothered me the most. And I tell you the truth, that's the reason why I'm doing this story now.
His legacy is the kid from Youngstown who won the title for his dad. And I would hope that's the first sentence in his obituary. There's another part of his legacy too, which is the death of Deuk Koo Kim.
Ray Mancini is a friend of mine, and we talked about that fight against Deuk Koo Kim, and it has bothered him for a while. And how he deals with that has been very difficult.
Every November, he starts to feel what he calls anxieties, bad feelings. Ray Mancini has to deal with the death of a man who earned his utmost respect, and that will haunt him for the rest of his life.
My brother passed on Valentine's Day, so I never celebrate Valentine's Day. November 13th is a day of grieving for me. I grieve for that day in remembrance of Kim and his family, and I always will.